All right, welcome back. I am joined this morning by Captain Michael Cowart.
Thank you for having me.
Some relation to Mark Cowart, part of Team Shallowtail. So, we know I've done an upgrade now. Got the good fisherman, the smart guy in here, and Michael I have known, and you've heard me talk about first taking him fishing. His dad and I when. What were you, 5 or 6?
Something around there, barely.
Dragging him through the water,
yeah.
And him wading above, trying to fish above his head. But obviously fell in love with it. Is one of the great young captains here that's making a living out on the water that I am so proud of. And so anyway, like I said, there's some, he and his dad are heavy into the tournament trail and have fished all across the southeast for redfish. And we've got some great tips and tactics for you and a really good video. So, Michael, you brought we got a couple of rods here. Mm-hmm. Grab those. And we're always talking about setting up rods differently for different applications. And Michael and Mark fish these 13 fishing rods and reels, and they got me started doing it. But for instance, I am never getting in the boat without a topwater rod.
That's right.
Okay. I typically
it's always that
take
same
4.
one too, and you always got that same one tied on.
Well, yes. If it works, stay with it. This is not a Dalton Allen situation where you change every time you catch a fish trying to do it, my son. So, Michael, talk about this rod a little bit. This rod right here, the setup, that's the 7.2.
That's the 7.2 medium. That's the rod I throw 90% of the time. It's a super, it's just an awesome all-around rod. 7.2 is right in that window between 7 and 7.6, so you're not in that, it's a good middle ground, really. You can get a lot of casting distance out of it, but you also have a lot of accuracy. It's got a lot of backbone, but it's a really sensitive rod. And 7.2 medium Omen Green is what I fish with almost all the time. If you pull up to the boat in a tournament, or if I'm just out on the water, I probably have, most of those are the exact rod I'm throwing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this one, I use this one because these hooks are obviously sharp. But with the 3000 on it, and when I set it up, I've got a little bit heavier braid on this. And if you're not fishing braid, you need to be fishing braid.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a 15-pound braid. That's a 6-pound diameter, I think. 4 or 6 pound diameter.
It's 4.
And here I've got the Seaguar fluorocarbon that's 15 pounds on this. Mm-hmm. And this pink, this reddish color disappears in the water. Mm-hmm. But as Mike was saying, there's a lot of spine in this. You can cast it a long way, but with that fast tip, you get tremendous action. For tremendous walking the dog action with that. Mm-hmm. And then one that's set up for throwing spoons, same rod, but a little bigger.
This is 7.7 medium light, so a longer rod, a little bit, softer of a rod, I guess you could say. I throw this if I'm throwing something really far. I throw a lot of light, soft plastics on this to really get a lot of casting distance. You got it set up for a spoon. It's great for that. You can launch something with this rod, this 7.7 medium light. You can, and I know if you throw something, it's going far. So I know you can chunk one. That's right. Cast. Get away from the boat.
Yeah, this setup's a little bit different. The same reel, the 13 reel, but this has only got 10-pound fluorocarbon on it. Mm-hmm. Lighter, obviously the same color. I believe in that. And then also this is a 10-pound braid on here. Mm-hmm. And like Michael said, you take, this, for instance, this little hammered copper spoon, you can throw it a country mile by letting the rod do the work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see a lot of people on the boat, they get out there and try and throw it so hard. I'm like, just let the rod work for you, let it load up and let it cast.
You're not throwing a cast net, you're not throwing a baseball. I always tell them, keep the reel in front of you where you can see it all the time and let the rod work. Mm-hmm. So, all right, just real quick, because I get asked about that a lot, why take so many rods? There's 2 more that I take set up for swim baits and for different things, but we're going to go ahead and take this break real quick and then come back and talk about some knots and some things we use. All right, welcome back. We could talk all day about rods, and in the last segment today, we're going to really show you some tips. Michael's got some great knots to show you and some stuff that he's fishing with here in Panama City. But we've got a video coming up. I've seen it. It's fantastic, except for the fact that I'm not in it. So tell us about what we're going to see.
It's some clips of when we were practice fishing for the Elite Redfish Series in Louisiana last month. And I took my camera out there and we were on some really cool fish. Like it was abnormal, the big schools, and really I decided to get out there and take my camera and let y'all see what it's like to look through our eyes when we're on the water over there sight fishing, and just kind of talk through what we're doing and why we're doing it, and just let y'all see what it's about when we're out there fishing in Louisiana.
Yeah, in Louisiana, if you haven't fished over there, it's unlike anything else, right?
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
You'll see.
All right, yeah, well, let's go ahead and go to this video, Jeff, and I hope you'll enjoy it, and we'll be right back when it's done.
All right, so right here, we're just going along, and I noticed a giant coming down the bank, and I knew he was over, so I knew it'd be fun to catch. So I threw at him, and he didn't even seem like he wanted to eat. He just kind of nosed up to it and decided that he was going to eat it, and it was a lot bigger than I thought he was. When I threw at him, I thought it'd be like about a 30-incher or something like that. And he ended up being like, we never measured him, but he would have been over 35, 36 inches. It was a giant, and it was a lot of fun to catch on light tackle, but it was one that wouldn't have made a difference in the tournament anyway, so it was just fun to catch them, especially when you get to sight cast them.
Good Lord. Good Lord, that's a giant. He's way too big. See, that's why I threw at him. But see, there's a smaller one right behind him. Don't watch where you... Oh. God. You know when they pull drag, when the drag's all the way down, that's how you know it's a good one. Good Lord. Pole down here. You get down? I'm putting the poles down. Yeah, you probably need to get down. That's like a dang 32-inch fish. Oh no, don't go under there. Back that way. There you go. Look at the size of this thing. It is a giant. That's the only reason. You ain't gotta do that. This is a brute. That's the only reason I threw at this fish. He was telling me not to throw, but I knew he was gonna be over. There wasn't a question about that. Oh my God. I told you he was a giant. So we know, you got it on?
Yeah.
So we know this fish is 15 pounds at least, because he is just bottoming out the scale like there's no issue. Good grip on this big guy. Golly. That thing is huge.
I can't even get him all in the frame.
Did you got it zoomed out all the way?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Dude, that's a toad, Michael.
So this fish is easily over 15 pounds. He's probably about 33, 34 inches long. Just a giant. Saw him coming down the bank. Usually I wouldn't throw at a big fish, you know, a couple days before a tournament, but I knew this fish was, you know, definitely not the one we needed in the tournament. So, absolute giant. Gonna go ahead and let him go. Come on, sight fishing one like this. Like I said, I had that Concept Z, I had the drag locked all the way down. And whenever they pull drag on that, you know it's a giant. These are the ones you really got to
That's probably about a 20-pound fish.
Well, he bottomed out the 15-pound scale like it was nothing, so he's pushing 20. And those are the fish you really got to make sure they swim off, because those are the ones that have the babies.
That's the breeder fish.
Those are the breeders. So that's the kind of fun we get to have before the tournament. Now, I wouldn't even waste my time throwing that fish tournament day, because we just wasted 5 or 6 minutes that we could be fishing to try and get a good one.
So this is another fish that was just up shallow in super clear water, just having fun sight fishing. And I was throwing a minnows now. This is a Z-Man minnows, and man, he just choked it. And it's super fun watching them eat it. And you got to be careful when you're watching them eat, because a lot of times you see them eat the bait, but they don't have it good yet. And if you swing on them too early, then you don't actually hook them good. You got to let them have another second to get the bait down. But we've been catching them on the easy shrimps on the weedless jig head, and this one we switched over to the minnows to see if we could catch one on the minnow.
All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. And that's if you don't like that, stay at the house.
That's
You know,
right.
Take up something
About as
else.
good as it gets.
Yeah. All right, Michael. It's summertime. Obviously, it's hot. You got some Z-Man shrimp, some other stuff here. So tell me what you're fishing right now. What's being effective right here in
Yes.
Panama City?
Well, as you know, you go out in the bay, there's tons of bait. We got all kinds of white bait and finger mullet and pinfish and everything. And I like to really replicate what I'm fishing around. And whenever I'm fishing around large schools of bait, last year I started fishing with this particular lure, and it works super well. And all it is just a little Pearl Z-Man Streaks 3.75. That's why it's just 3 3/4 inches. They make different sizes of this. This is the Streaks 3.75 on a little 1/0 eye strike jig head. And it just looks like all those little white baits you see and the little pilchards and stuff like that the redfish and trout are feeding on. And I just rigged this thing up and set it up on a rod like we talked about, that you can cover a lot of water with it. And I just twitch this thing like crazy. And all I do is just work it. And it doesn't look the prettiest in the water. It may dart 3 times to the right and then 1 to the left and then spin upside down.
Just like bait would.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like that bait that's distressed. Maybe a bait fish got injured but not eaten yet, and it's just darting all over. And, you know, people say, well, that's a real small hook to be catching big redfish on. They inhale this thing. Like, you can't give him a second because he will totally just ingest it. You hook them real deep a lot of times, but, you know, it's a really good bait, and they absolutely crush it whenever there's a lot of bait around.
All right, and you got some other stuff. Oh, and by the way, and he's talking about this size hook because it needs to sit here. It needs to look like this, because if you got one of those longer shank hooks, you're taking all the action out of the bait. So this is plenty, and you can put it to them when they get it. So what else are you rigging and fishing right now?
Well, talking about rigging, I know a lot of guys prefer stuff that's pre-rigged. Just pull it out of the package, tie it on. And I've always talked about the Z-Man Easy Shrimps, but I always talk about the unrigged version, which kind of takes away from the easy and the easy shrimps. But this is the pre-rigged that you can buy them either way. This comes in a pack of 2, and it's just like those shrimp that come pre-rigged. You can just get this out of the package and tie it on. And what's really cool about this is, I don't know how well we can get in on this, but you see those little segments right there in that lead? It's made so you can take your pliers and break it off. So if you want to reduce weight, you can just pop off a couple of these little segments and, you know, reduce weight. And I really love to fish these under a popping cork. It just sits down and it sits there nicely, and it has these segments under the tail, so it has a lot of action. And this is a really easy way that if you're on your lunch break or something, or you're out from work, you can just pull one of these out of the pack, tie it on, and go walk down to the edge of the bay and, get out there quick without having to worry about, okay, do I have the right jig heads and do I have the right plastic? You just get these in a pack and they're ready to roll.
All right, listen, I mean, we could do this for 2 hours, but I hope you've enjoyed it. Michael, I always appreciate you coming on and bringing your knowledge of this bay and fishing to us. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and God bless, and we'll see you later.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors.